YouTube. My name is Barbara Hecker, and today you're going to learn the absolute beginner's guide to playing the guitar, and I'm going to show you how to play the way I really prefer how to play is called Fingerstyle, where the fingers on the right hand side, and then I'll show you the guitar in a few minutes. Instead of strumming, no, they pluck strings. So when you pluck strings, you get more. It's slower. I mean, it can be. You can do a lot with it. I mean, you can do melodies. You can do rhythm. You can do all sorts of things with it. I just prefer it over the bang, 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 bang. With the pick. And I don't like picks. I don't like to use a pick. I like the natural fingers touching the strings. So this is the style of guitar that I'm going to show you. It's actually kind of an easy way of playing. At the same time, it sounds very complicated. There's a whole routine to it. I'm going to show you the routine, and I'm going to show you how to learn it and how to practice and what to practice to get proficient at it. And I would say within about maybe about 9-10 lessons, perhaps, of my videos, you'll be playing. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. So let me orient you to the guitar, because this is the absolute beginner's guide to playing the guitar. This is video number 1, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes running through how to hold the guitar, where to practice, what to do, kind of thing, what kind of guitar you can do this with. You can play with a classical guitar, or you can play, I would prefer, and most fingerstylist guitarists prefer metal strings versus the nylon strings. When you start playing with a nylon string guitar, you're really playing with a classical guitar, and you can't get the same action, and you can't get the same kind of reverb kind of feeling. You can play. I like to play with it's an acoustic electric, which you can see there's like a little spot there. I can plug my amp into it, and I've got an amp back there. If you can see it back in the corner. I'm not going to use the amp today, but the amp sounds great because I don't have to worry about people hearing me in the back of a crowded room. And they make a special, and maybe I'll do a whole thing on amps, but they make special acoustic guitar style amps for fingerstyle, so the amp retains the quality of the sound and doesn't distort it like an electric guitar. So we're not going to be bending strings and doing all sorts of fancy electric guitar techniques. So if that's what you're looking for in terms of learning how to play the guitar, don't look at my videos. You're not going to be happy with them. This is more, laid back, kind of, enjoy playing and really sound good in terms of what you're doing. I've had lessons in classical guitar. I've taken lessons in Renaissance style, all sorts of Romantic style era type music, Celtic music, all sorts of different types. And so my style is sort of a combination of all of those different types. However, so it might sound a little bit different. It might sound a bit unique. So it's kind of a hybrid of a lot of different styles. This is the neck of the guitar, as you can see. This is the tuner section of the guitar. Yours might look a little different. Doesn't really matter. Neck's going to have some dots on it. The dots, whether yours has dots or not, doesn't really matter. The dots are actually repeated as well on the inside. If you can see, you can kind of see in the video here. Actually, you can see there's 2 dots down here. I'd like to show you the 2 dots here. There's dots here. The dots are kind of a cheat sheet method of figuring out where you are on the fretboard. So the first dot is on the 3rd fret. You're normally going to find this with all guitars. And you can easily kind of look this way. If you're looking this way, you can see the dot here, or you can see the dot here. You go, hey, that's the 3rd fret. Most of the strings you're playing from the 2nd fret, so it's like right above the 3rd fret. Just as a quick glance. I mean, you shouldn't be playing the guitar like this. Looking at why you're playing, because once you get in the habit and once you figure out what you're doing, you don't have to look at all. You go by feel. So in this classical kind of, your average every day, the dots help you kind of stay within. But if your guitar doesn't have any dots, don't worry about it. Sometimes you get some fancy inlays, some really nice marble or something in there. But it's usually made out of wood for the most part. You don't have to oil your strings. You don't have to do anything to your strings except for change the strings. My strings on this guitar are pretty old, actually. but I'm too lazy. So I can, I probably should be changing them. You want to change them every couple of months if you're playing. If you're brand new, you could probably get by with a set of strings for an entire year, perhaps, if you wanted to. Let me talk about the strings for a few minutes. So I talked about frets already, and start at the top of the guitar here, if I can pull it over. There we go. I'm going to navigate here. So these are called the frets. And in between the frets, they're separated by these lines. These lines are actually protruding a bit. So if you were to rub your fingers across the fretboard, well, you're going to feel the strings. If the strings weren't there, you'd be feeling these lines. And these lines are indicating fret number 1, fret number 2, fret number 3, and they're numbered number 1 all the way down to 10, 12 frets. This is pretty good. 3/4 guitars, smaller guitars might have fewer number of frets. Most of your frets are going to be played, 7, 8 is probably as far as you're going to go. Depends if you're playing chords or if you're actually depressing for certain notes. And I'll get into that later. So the frets are used to sort of control the position. In fact, there are some guitars that don't have frets. They're just solid all the way down, and the position where you're playing is going to affect the tone of the string that you're plucking. And it is called plucking, to pluck a string. To depress, I don't know what the technical word for it is, but when you depress, you're holding down the strings. This is as basic as I can get. And where you want to hold down the strings, and this is the part I didn't actually learn for a very long time, which I thought was kind of basic when I first figured it out. I was like, yeah, you get better tone if you hold down the fret, if you hold down the string right next to the fret line, right where that line, you get a better tone. You don't actually have to press it as hard either. And you shouldn't be pressing down really hard on the strings. If you hold it down right before the line, you don't get buzzing. You don't get any kind of strange artifact that might occur. You get a pretty solid sound. If you don't hold it down, or if you're kind of wimpy and you don't hold it down all the way, you start getting buzzing. You don't want buzzing. So you'll get a little buzzing in the beginning. Don't worry about it. You have to build the muscles up in the fingers. You have to get, you have to train your hand actually to kind of fit the fretboard properly. And if you're struggling with it, and I've seen this before, a lot of kids, they have, if you haven't noticed, my guitar is pretty thin. I like playing thin body guitars. They don't produce the same amount of sound. They don't get the same kind of sound quality. This happens to be a vintage Kramer Farrington from the 1970s. This is the authentic model. Actually, hasn't been modified at all. With the original tuner and stuff on it. Tuner doesn't work anymore. But I have another one with a working tuner that I play when I want to actually hook it up to the amp. But this is a great guitar for practicing. I like it because I'm not struggling with it. It's not big. I've seen a lot of kids with these huge guitars, and they have their whole arms wrapped around it, or they can't reach the fret correctly, or they're playing like this, or they're playing like this. Or, it just, you're struggling. It's like, why don't you just get an instrument that fits you? And the instrument that fits you is going to be the one for which you're going to enjoy playing, and you're going to play for a long time, and you're never going to get rid of, and it's going to be your instrument for life. The instruments that don't fit you are the ones you're going to be throwing out the window, or you're going to be donating, at the shelter. You're going to be giving them away because you don't want to play the thing, which is kind of sad. So the better players have guitars that actually fit them correctly, and they're able to, they feel natural. Which kind of gets into the concept of how do you hold the guitar, how do you know if a guitar fits you. So I'm actually not a good example because I'm sitting in an office chair. This is because my guitar studio is in my office, and this is just your regular old chair. So I sit in my office chair, and this is where I make all my videos, all my technology videos and everything as well. You can see most people would sit like this. You got a couple of options. You can rest the guitar on one leg. You see kind of in the movies, the huge guitars are this way. They're resting them up this way. And the neck is practically up like this, and kind of looks like a bass guitar versus a regular guitar. A lot of classical players will play this way. And they'll play this way because not only is the neck thick, it's easier to maneuver, it's easier to get to it when it's closer to you. And you've got a huge body on the guitar. I play this guitar sort of like a rhythmist guitar. I like to sit down when I'm playing it, because I just feel more relaxed that way. And what I normally do is I rest it on my right thigh, and actually I cross my leg, cross the right thigh over my left thigh, and I rest it up here. I do that because when I'm down like this, it's too low, and my back doesn't end up being straight. I end up crunching over the guitar. If I lift this leg up a little bit, and I actually push the guitar forward a little bit on the leg, it goes higher and higher. It's lower, lower, higher, higher, which allows me to adjust the height a little bit. You don't want to play down like this. You don't want to play up like this. I like to kind of play at a level. It is slightly inclined, but you will get a natural, and it doesn't really matter what the sound's going to sound the same. What you don't want is you don't want this so far away that you have to reach for it, and you don't want to be hunched over, and you don't want to not to be able to grab over it, which is why I like the thin body guitars, because I can put my arm over it. It fits more naturally, and I can, this is right here. It's not too far away either. So let's talk about hand positions. In a resting position, I've got 5 fingers on this hand and 5 fingers on this hand. No deformalities here. Not deformed. The little pinky, he ends up sitting on what's called the pick guard. And I have a pick guard on this guitar. I haven't used a pick in years. But the pick guard is this little piece here. A little piece of plastic that is on top of the body of the guitar. This is referred to as the body of the guitar. And then we have the bridge. This would be the bridge. If you have an electric guitar, you would have pickups in here. This is the sound hole. This is referred to as the sound hole. This body is hollow, which means it will project sound. Solid bodies, your electric guitars, not going to produce any sound unless you have it hooked up to an amp. So we got the tuners. These are nuts on the tuners. We got the fretboard. We got the strings. I'll have another video on strings and stuff like that, and accessories and things you can do with the guitar. But for right now, the strings themselves are what's being depressed. This hand would be doing strumming, or would be doing picking. When this hand sits on the guitar, I kind of get into the habit of taking my pinky and putting my pinky down on the pick guard. Then I know that, I can kind of stretch out, and the pick guard kind of protects the guitar anyway, protects the finish. But in my normal kind of position, I actually have the pinky. You can kind of see the pinky just kind of sits here. The pinky does get used, and I'll go through that in a few minutes. But for right now, in the resting position, the pinky just sits here, and you can just put your fingers on the string if you want. You don't want to be holding up the guitar with the fretboard. This should not be holding up the guitar. This should be holding up the guitar. So in a resting position, if you've got the guitar set correctly, this should be standalone. You should not have to be touching the fretboard at all. And when you do touch the fretboard, you're touching it to depress strings. So the classic problem a lot of people have is they touch stuff, and it causes sounds. It causes really weird sound effects. So try to avoid touching anything unless you really have to, especially on the fretboard. Most people have this classic, kind of feeling that they need to wrap their hands around the fretboard, or that they're holding it up, or that they're constantly moving, which is kind of wrong. When you put your fingers on the fretboard, you don't want to grip it for life. You just want to depress the strings. And as I mentioned before, you want to depress them close to the fret bars, and you get better sound that way. And what you're doing is taking normally, and I'll just kind of show you as an example, you're taking, as an example, strings and holding them down. And I'm going to go through a drill for you on this first video to kind of get you in practice of holding strings down. And the way this kind of works in theory is that you've got string, you got fingers with numbers. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter how. The thumb isn't used for anything. The thumb does not get used at all. In fact, the thumb does not wrap around unless you're playing a different style of guitar. There are players who use their thumb. Thumb doesn't get used. And it is getting used. It's getting used on the big 6, on the 6th string. And otherwise, the thumb is going to rest. And where's the thumb going to rest? When you put your fingers on the fretboard, the most relaxing way of doing it, and you want to just barely touch it, is to put the thumb about halfway. Let me see if I can get this into the video. About halfway in the center of the back of the guitar. So the thumb doesn't go all the way around. It goes about halfway. So the thumb is sitting, right here, actually. You can wrap it this way, but it makes it really hard to move. So pick the center point of the neck of the guitar, the center point of the back, and put your thumb on there. Just rest it there. If you find yourself wrapping it around, stop yourself and loosen up. Just going to loosen the hand up a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to strain your arm. You're going to strain your hand. If I put it around halfway, this allows me to easily press things down. And I'll go through that in a few minutes. And move easily, move quicker. And it just allows for a little bit more flexibility and movement. And make things go a lot smoother up and down. If I'm holding on for dear life, it's hard to move. You're stiff. You don't want to be stiff. You don't want to be stiff in the right or the left hand. So I've got some notes here. Okay, so good. I'm going to talk about the strings next, because I do have a method here I kind of want to cover. So let's talk about the strings and the string naming. It doesn't really matter if you're in a traditional school kind of environment. They would have you memorize the string names. It's actually kind of easy. There's some mnemonics for it as well. What we've got is 6 strings on this guitar, and the first string is the one on the bottom. So the strings you might consider are upside down. So it starts on the bottom. So this is the neck of the guitar, and this is the bottom. I'm holding it real close to the video so you can kind of see it. The number 1 string, this one here, is the E string, and it is number 1. And then we have the B string. So we have the B, then we have the G string, which is the 3rd string, the D string, the A string, and then another E string. So the big 6th string is the E string. And so we have, sometimes you'll see it in books or in videos, you see the big E, which is the 6th string, and the little e, or the small e, which is the number 1 string. So we got E's on both sides. And the one thing that a lot of beginners have a problem with, and you're probably just going to buy an electric tuner if I were you, and is how to tune the guitar. So before you start playing, if you've got a brand new guitar, and unfortunately new people start out with new guitars, you got new strings on the guitar, and the strings are constantly stretching when they're new. That's why I haven't, this guitar is, it's always in tune for me because the strings are so old they don't stretch anymore. But I don't get the same kind of tone out of it either. Long story short, the older your guitar, the less you have to tune it because the strings are worn out. But the new guitars have better sound, have strings that are stretching. And what ends up happening is you got to tune the guitar before you play it, otherwise you're really not going to produce good sound. So you can start with a pitchfork. You could start with an electronic tuner. You got to get, and most people would start with the E string, the big E. Get the big E tuned to an E. And I'm not going to go through music theory right now, but there's an E, and you just want the middle. You don't want a high sharp, or you don't want any variation. You just want a standard E. Once you get the E, you can tune the rest of the guitar because all of the strings will tune to that one. So you could probably take this video. I don't know how good the sound quality is going to be. Maybe I'll hold the guitar up a little bit. That's an E. So if you can tune your 6th string to match that sound, I don't know if that's going to work or not. You might just have to go and pick up an electric tuner. You can tune it to that sound. Then you can use this technique I'm going to show you, and it's a very classic. It's not my technique. It's used all over the place. And the strings themselves are of different thicknesses. There are different diameters and different compositions. And these particular strings are steel, so they're wrapped actually in copper. So they're just regular old strings. It doesn't really matter what kind of strings you have. You can tune any guitar this way. So we found the E. Let's say you're able to. In fact, if you have a piano, you can tune it to an E on a piano. You just want the E sound. Even if your E is wrong, it doesn't really matter. You can tune the rest of the guitar to it, and your whole system will be down or up or be slightly off, but it'll be all consistent, so it will sound actually okay. I've played with it way out of key before, and it sounds okay actually. So the E string. So here's the trick. So the E string. Now the next string we want to tune is the A string, which is the 5th string. So it's the first string is the E, the second one is the A string. In order to tune the A string, we've got to figure out what the A is supposed to sound like. If we depress the E on the 5th string, 5th fret, so if we go here and we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the tune to an E, and or you could just go to the second dot, if you're looking at the dots. If you hold this one down and pluck it, it's going to be an A. So that's what the second string, that's what the 5th string should sound like. I'm doing this backwards. I like to start with the higher strings and go to the lower ones. Or it's the opposite around. These are lower, the other ones are higher. Anyway, so that's a classic example of what you don't want to do. So that one's an A. So if I hit the note next to it, I'm hitting the 2 strings now. As soon as I remove my fingernail, it is a good kind of, what you just experienced was a fingernail where it shouldn't have been. So you want to trim the nails, especially on your left hand. Trim those nails. Is actually, for the type of guitar that I play, and what I'm going to be teaching you in these videos, it's probably not a bad idea to keep, you don't want to go ultra short, but make them, not long, but make them, it doesn't really matter if you've got polish or anything on them. You don't have to strengthen them at all. You don't need it. You don't need like clear coat or anything on there. Just keep your nails kind of trimmed and don't let them grow out. Let them grow long, because what ends up happening is you'll get buzzing and stuff, and you'll get nails hitting where they should be hitting. So let's go back to tuning for a second. If I hold down the 6th string on the 5th fret, it turns into an A. So I'm holding this one down here, and I'm plucking it, and this is an A. So I can kind of tune it with the one next to it, and it sounds pretty close. It is an A. If it weren't, I can loosen it by looking at the tuner pegs and tighten it, loosen it. If it's a brand new guitar, most likely you're gonna have to tighten it. Those should match. Same thing true for the next string. So once I do the E naturally, any way I can. Then I press the E on the 5th fret. I compare it with the A. I adjust the A, which is the 5th string. If that sounds good to me, those 2 strings pretty much sound the same, I think. And the A might be a little high. It's okay. I'm not going to mess with it. Looks good. Then I do the same thing over again. I press now on the 5th fret of string number 5. So I'm pressing right there on string number 5. You can see, here's the finger. Fret number 5, and hold it close to the line so you get a better sound. And I'm going to compare it with the string next to it. So this one is now a D. So these are open strings. When you're not pressing down on anything, it's called open. The 5th string on the 5th fret gives me a D. And the D is the next string, it's the 4th string. It's pretty close, pretty close. Yeah, so I know that the 3rd string is now it's really the 4th string. We go A, E, A, D. And then I do the same thing. I move down a string now. So now I am depressing the 4th string, which is the open D. If I press on the 5th fret, it turns into a G. And my next string, the 3rd string from here is also going to be, well, it should be a G. Oops. There we go. I'm only holding down one string. I'm holding down the 4th string on the 5th fret and comparing it with the next string, the 3rd string. So they're both, they sound like a G. And then here's where it gets different. You have to move up a fret for the next string. So for the for the 3rd string, for this one here, which is from the bottom, for the 3rd string, if you go the opposite direction, so go 1, 2, 3, you got to move up a fret. So it's on the 4th fret. So if I depress this one on the 4th, and compare it to the one next to it, the 2nd string now. So to do the 3rd and the 2nd, you've got to move up a fret. That sounds pretty close. And then I go back down to the 5th fret. The 5th fret right here for the 2nd string, so I can compare it with the 1st string. Open. And this is going to give me another E. So I would adjust the 1st string, this one here, to match this one, and this one is the 2nd string held down on the 5th fret that's producing that E sound. You don't want to use this method? Don't feel like you can't master it. Go get yourself an electronic tuner and look up the which ones are supposed to be which. In fact, the tuners tell you now anyway. The 1st string, the 2nd string. So just remember, you start the string count on the bottom. This is the smallest, thinnest, lightest weight string on the guitar is the 1st string. The thickest, heaviest string that's on the top of the board is the 6th string. So, and they're both E's. The little one and the big one are both E's, which is kind of weird. But and then get yourself an electric tuner. Or you can do it the old way. You see people tuning for days. It's never going to sound right. So you want to essentially get happy with it and just leave it at that. So let me leave you with an exercise, because now you're gonna be worried about how you're gonna hold the guitar, where you're gonna put your fingers. So this exercise is gonna help you put all these pieces together and show you a little bit of method, and allow you to kind of strengthen. Because what we need to do at the beginning, you need to build some calluses up on the ends of your fingers, on the right hand side. Excuse me, on your left hand. It has some calluses. You're not gonna build them overnight. It's gonna be a little painful, especially if you got a steel string guitar. If you're finding it too painful and you're giving up, you might want to look at the action setting on the guitar. And when you bought your guitar, I don't know, or maybe someone bought it for you and it was a gift, you might notice that the strings aren't resting on the neck of the guitar. They're a little higher up off the neck, and I'm kind of angling this so you can sort of see the space that's between the strings and the fretboard. That's called the action. This is what I would call a low action guitar, because the strings are very, very close to the fretboard. This makes it easier to play the low action, makes it a little softer to play. However, it also makes it difficult for a lot of, for a lot of sound effects like bending strings, sliding. It's hard to get the same type of an effect on this, but it's easier to play. And for a beginner, I highly recommend a low action. You don't want it too low that the strings are buzzing, and it is a little bit more sensitive when it's a low action, so you'll hear a lot more imperfections, especially vibration. If your strings are vibrating against the fret pegs, that's not good. You want it so the strings are not touching any part of the neck. but they're as low as they could possibly be without touching. That's the lowest action. They call it the action instead. This part of the guitar, don't worry about. It's not going to matter too, you're not going to notice anything. So, here's my exercise for you to leave you with for video number 1, and then video number 2, I'll get through playing some songs. Actually, we'll play a song on video number 2. But to leave you with something for video number 1, we're going to learn how to hold the strings down. So you got 4 fingers, and you got 6 strings. So how does that work? Well, you don't really worry about which string each one of the 4 fingers is touching. And there's sort of a method to the madness in terms of being able to reach the strings. So the classic exercise that every beginning guitar book has you go through is, which really is called a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of exercise, where you're going to hold down and you're going to pluck the strings in this kind of a sequence. So the first finger is going to go on the first fret of the first string. So it's going to go right here. The second finger is going to go on the second fret of the first string. That third finger is going to go on the third fret of the first string. The fourth finger is going to go on the fourth fret of the first string. So your hand, when you have all the fingers down, is going to look like that. And you're going to do this to all of the strings. So the next is to take them off in reverse order. And then put them back on, but now you're on the second. So now I'm pressing down on the second string, first fret, second string, second fret, second string, third fret, second string, fourth fret. If you can do this, you can play the guitar. Now, some of you might find this a bit of a stretch in the beginning. So 2 things might be the problem. The guitar might be too big for you. If you can't do this, you can't play that guitar. If it's not a matter of the guitar, but your fingers still stretched, or you're weak, your hand is weak and you can't get the strength to actually touch it, then it's just, that's curable. That's not a guitar fault, that's a strength building thing. You're going to repeat this all the way up the neck. So the next time you're going to go to the third string, then you're going to go to the fourth string. And as you go up the neck and you go into the bigger strings, you're going to find it to be a bit more difficult, because this is going to rely upon how stiff your thumb is. If you loosen your thumb up a little bit and don't even touch the back of the guitar with it, you're going to find it's easier, because then what ends up happening is you can roll the hand up. There's nothing wrong with rolling the hand up. You're going to need to. You're going to need to get this flexibility in your wrist. And this is going to make, at the end of your workout, and this really is going to be a workout for you, this first video, this first exercise is going to be a workout for you. Because at the end, you're going to notice some stiffness in your wrist. Your wrist is not going to be as, you're pulling some muscles you probably have never worked before. So, and as you're going up the neck, you're going to finally stop on the 6th string here. And you're going to be looking at, this is the position, and you're going to naturally notice that on the back of the guitar, your thumb is about halfway or less. Your thumb is going to be, about halfway or less around the center of the back of that neck. And if it is, then you can't play like this. This isn't going to be natural for you. This is going to be essentially how far you're going to be able to put that thumb around, and you're not going to be able to put that thumb around too far unless you've been playing for a long time and you've built up those muscles. So this is what your left hand is going to be doing, and your left hand is going to be doing systematically. Your right hand. This is where we're going to start learning how to use the strings on your right hand. You got 6 strings. The 3 big strings, string number 6, 5, and 4. Are going to be played with your thumb. So your thumb is going to go on those first 3 strings. That's always your thumb. This is fingerstyle, so this may not match anything you've seen in books, or unless you're looking at a fingerstyle book. Your thumb plays the first three strings. The next 3 strings are 6 total. We got 3 on the thumb. The next 3 strings are going to be played with the next 3 fingers. So your index finger, or your middle finger, and your end finger. Your pinky finger isn't going to be playing at all in this exercise. Because mostly, we'll get into the pinky later. The pinky is a little bit more difficult. We need the pinky for certain arpeggio styles. Don't need the pinky that much. Pinky is nice. Just rest the pinky. So for this exercise, rest the pinky right here. Put your next finger on this string. The next finger goes here, and then this guy goes here. These guys are going to rest right here, and you're going to be plucking the strings. These fingers. While these fingers are working, the thumb should not be resting. The thumb should be open, off the strings. So when you're not hitting anything at all, when you're getting ready, put your hand out like this. So you can probably see it. I just put my thumb down. And where you put your finger, you got to be able to reach the string with the rest of the finger. So you'll get used to where this goes. So I kind of look like this in the beginning. I don't have anything touching any strings except for I got my pinky rested here. I'm getting ready. Now I'm going to start with a small. I'm going to start with this first string. And I'm going to go through this routine. So when I press down this one here, the first one, my next finger is getting ready. He's going to hit the string once. And then I'm going to go press the second. Hit it. Third. Fourth. You want a clean sound. You don't want any, you don't want, no, I can't do it. You don't want buzzing. You want to make it clean. And the way you get it clean is to put the finger as close as you want, or you don't want to put it on top of it. Put it right up next to the line, that middle line that's coming out. It'll be easier for you. Right there. I almost, I put it on the line. There we go. You don't want that sound. That's buzzing sound. That's because I have my finger here on the line. If I move it up a little bit off the line, I get a clearer sound. My pinky. I always play my pinky up a little bit. It doesn't really matter where you press it in between. As long as it's in the fret area, doesn't matter where you depress it. I have actually kind of a small hand, so when I pluck, I'm just going like this. I'm just plucking. At this point, we don't care about plucking. In fact, there's nothing to it. We just pluck the string. So as I go down, what I'm doing is I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. This is why they call it the 1, 2, 3, 4 song. It's not really a song, but it's an exercise. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to go off. 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's this doing? It's exercising this hand, getting me this way, and it's exercising this hand, getting this finger who's never hit. Maybe this finger's never hit a string before. It's building those muscles up too. When you get done playing this arm and this arm, going to hurt a little bit. They're going to hurt a little bit. Go through this routine. Go through it once or twice, and you're going to feel it. Guaranteed. If not, then do it twice until you start feeling it. Yeah. This is what's going to build the muscle up. This is what's going to make you a good player. Because you're going to build the muscle up anyway, whether it's while you're struggling how to figure out how to play a song, or whether you're practicing to build a muscle. When we get done with the first string, we move to the second string. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we switch fingers here. If we want, we can rest this guy here if we want, because we're not going to do anything with it. We take the next finger in the sequence, this one right here, and we put him on the second string. So the second, this finger, the index finger is now going on the second string. We're going to pluck that second string this time. And we're going to use the second string, same finger sequence. So we're going to go on the second string. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we're going to move to the third string. And when we move to the third string, we can leave these two fingers if we want. We can leave them on, which is a nice resting point. And now we're plucking the third string in our sequence. So our third string on our fret is going to be our third string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, see? Now I'm starting to feel the stretch a little bit. Maybe I need to do this exercise more often. It's not speed at this point either. You don't have to go really fast through this. Just getting in the hand position is going to be enough for you. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then, now we can, the little fingers can sort of take a break, because the thumb's going to take over. The thumb, remember the thumb hits the first, the sixth, the fifth, and the fourth. So fourth, fifth, and sixth. Three big strings. Half the guitar is played by the thumb. So, on the fourth string then, oops, there's the fourth string. We get the first fret, second, third, fourth. Yeah. Now you can just see the little trick I just did. I picked up everything else because I was lazy. You want to try and leave them down as long as you can, because that's going to help you stretch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's kind of a stretch for me. 4, 3, 2, 1. I actually do have a small hand, so I have a few tricks that I do to emphasize for the size of my hand. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the thumb is going to hit my fifth string, and I'm going to be up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And try to keep your fingers on the fretboard. If you must, you can pull them off. I'm kind of have a bad habit. I do pull them off. But I'm trying to keep them on for the purposes of demonstration on this video. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I kind of slid it down. I pulled off the top. And I go 4, 3, 2, 1. It's okay if you pull them off, but it's preferred if you leave them on, you're going to be a better player in the long run. So, and on the fifth string, the sixth string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it was pretty lousy because I was trying to keep them on there. But that's the 1, 2, 3, 4 song, and that's your first lesson. Do that a couple times, and it's going to sound boring, and you're going to go, well, this doesn't sound like a song. It's a great way of conditioning, and you probably can sort of feel it maybe if you've been doing along with the video. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4 song. It's a classic. It is a way of not only getting your right hand kind of used to the strings, but your left hand also familiar with the fretboard and developing those muscles that you're going to need. So go ahead and practice the 1, 2, 3, 4 song. The next time we come back, I'm going to take it a little bit further and show you a lot more different techniques. Each video, I'm probably going to use a different camera next time so I can get better sound quality. But each video is going to extend and give you a new topic and turn you into a really good guitarist, hopefully. So, hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.